Hello everyone, Steve Ford here, and I'm going to show you how I do score editing, produce very simple guitar transcription scores for guitar students and people that ask me to do transcriptions. We're going to go from there, and I'm going to show you in Cubase 10 how I approach this. So without further ado, I'm going to show you, we're going to be dealing basically with the score editor solely, and I'm going to, without further ado, let's get on and show the screen. So this is Base 10, the project window, and what I've got at the moment is I've got a piano hooked up to a little keyboard here, and my little webcam is there. There you go. Hello everyone. You'll see the frame rate's a little bit slow because I'm capturing my entire desktop at the moment, but what we're going to do is we're going to go through a series of steps to show you how I create scores for guitarists mainly. Now let's take a riff, a very simple basic riff to start with. I'll show you how I duplicate and remove this track, so that I'll just have one MIDI track there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down the Alt button and drag and create a very small 4-bar piece of a MIDI track there, and if I double click that, that will take me into the MIDI editor. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to create a very simple open position basic guitar I think that's the wrong octave, so I'm going to do shift and up arrow and bring that up to the right octave, and then I'm just going to play with the dynamics because we're dealing with a piano here. So and I'm just going to draw in a little basic rhythm. That. And copy that and then put in a very guitarist-y sort of chord. So it'll be something like, okay, and I'm going to duplicate that so that it fills the whole 4 bars up. Okay. Now, going into the score editor, if I left click that and highlight it and select scores, I can also press Control and R, and that will also take me to my score editor. In previous versions of Cubase, you were able to right click and go to MIDI or scores, an open selection. That feature has now been consolidated into scores top here. Okay, so one of the first things I want to do when I'm in the score editor is I much prefer working with page mode. So I go to scores, open page mode, and then this little drop down arrow here in the corner, I want to click that and select bit width. Now it's quite bunched up at the moment, so one of the things first of all I want to do is there's a little blue bar handle there that you can select for each bar. I want to get the transpose right, basically. So I double left click that and go into main. And where it says other transpose, I want to select guitar and apply. That will put it into a more of a guitarist friendly setting. Just going to move that left click and move that bar number across. And now really I want to have 2 bars, and when we want to separate bars, make them on a new line, I want to actually have these 2 on the line and then these 2 on another bar line. What we do is we go to scores and advanced layout and number of bars, and we choose the number of bars that we want, and I want them for this staff. So I select that. You'll now see that there's 2 of them laid out there, which is a little bit neater now. Now the next thing to do is we want to get some tablature there as well. And so if we close off this window, one of the things that I do here, I don't know whether it's de facto standard or whether I've just like, but basically what I do is I hold down the Alt button and I left click and drag down to a blank part of the project window. That will create an identical part, and I'm just going to call this guitar tab. And now if I left click and lasso both the areas and then Control and R, I'll get both of them. Now as you can see, the bar numbers have gone back to the default of 4, and in the actual preferences of Cubase, edit preferences and scores, you can choose the default number of bars there. Also, it's worth noting in the preferences section here that there's a thing called the position cursor, and there's a few other things which help make your life a little bit easier. We're going to leave that alone for the minute because I want to go back to advanced layout, and now I'm going to select all staves. Okay, and for the bottom bar, what I want to do is I'm just going to if I left click in the corner, these blue bar handles allow me to drag. I'm going to drag them down and keep them out of the way. First of all, what I want to do is I'm going to hold the shift button down and highlight all of these. I would like the stems to be on the bottom. So I'm right clicking on properties on any note. I could do this, but on the ones I've highlighted, right click, properties, stem, and down. Reason being is I want to put chord shapes, chord boxes along the top, and I want these to stay. So there's no point having 2 manuscripts of treble clef, 2 staves there. So if I double click again and turn on tablature mode, that will give you my tablature. Just checking again that the actual transpose is set. Okay, and now I'm just going to do a bit of tweaking just to make sure that there's enough room to put the chords in. Okay. Next up, I'm just going to move that bar there. If things aren't lined up like that, really, you can use the score I'm going to show you in a minute to align elements vertically or horizontally. That's quite a useful feature, which I'll show you in a sec. The next thing we want to do is we might want to add chord boxes. So if we select Other and then this guitar symbol and place it anywhere, it doesn't matter, just click a blank part and up pops this chord box. Now it's quite a small chord box that they give you, but you're able to dot in with the left mouse, the left click, and you can have a don't play, nothing, or an open string. And I want to create a C major chord like that, and I'll set the size to about 6. Also, if you left click the library, there's a number of chords there that have been pre-done. Well, okay, so that's the first chord there. Just make sure it matches. I can turn the acoustic feedback on. Yeah, that looks pretty good to me. And now we can have a chord symbol over the top of that. If I just choose the chord type of major, for some reason it doesn't show MAG at the end, MAJ, sorry, at the end. Just as for a major chord, it just shows the note C. Now my font, there's presets in there as well. My font setting is, I think, set to the Jazz font of Steinberg. I seem to prefer it that way. Now, here's a little trick you can do. If you left click and then hold down the shift and left click both, and then hold down the Alt button, you can then drag and create duplicate. While you're in that duplicate, you can now add your chord type, which is sus4, and then edit your block chord by double left clicking and doing that. Right, now sometimes you might find that these are a little bit out of alignment, they're not dead straight. So if you have put them where you want them to go. I usually like at the end of the stem the chord to start there, and if they're kind of not lined up right, hold down the shift, highlight what you need, and then go to scores, align elements, center vertically, and just do the same with these two. If you do all four at once like that, it will align them all and they'll overlap. So you want to do each element separately. Go to scores, align elements. Okay, now I can take these two, lower them down, and they'll stay put, and they'll be nice and neat. Okay, now obviously the same. Hold down the shift button left and click, and I can hold down the alt button, and that will bring me right down to that page there. Now obviously you can see that the stems are on the top, which is what I wanted to avoid. Next two bars. So I just use the shift button, right click any of the notes that are highlighted blue, go to stem, down. That gives me a little bit more room to move my Control and Z to undo that little error there. And then there, once again, if I've moved them out of alignment, that's pretty good to me. And we might want to add some picking directions to show us where we're actually moving and where we're doing on the guitar. And so if we go to note symbols, and the picking directions are done with basically violin bows, so a bow down or a bow up or a bow down, and also with accents. Well, you notice there's a little bit of syncopation happening there where they're tied across the beat. So if we down, up, down, up, up, down, up, that's pretty good. So we just go, and we can do this one at a time if we want, like that. But I found a better method if we select all the downs, just one note, we don't have to select all of them. And then click on the bow down, they'll all go in at once. Okay, so down, up, up, down, and do that again. Okay, and if we lasso these or we move these out of position, for instance, if we move them, they will go green, which means they're not in their default position. So if we right click, go to default position, it'll put them back. Or I can just, for ease of this video, I can just right Control and Z and undo. But if I highlight these, I can then right click and select flip position, and it will put the actual picking directions at the bottom. Okay, which is something I prefer. Again, it's just a personal preference thing. And I'm now just going to actually highlight these, and we're going to do the bow up. And now I'm going to select flip position, and then you'll see the actual picking directions are put. Once again, if you need to actually change that, you can lasso a lot of them by left clicking and flip position, and they'll go along the top. Let's keep them at the top, why not? So I say my personal preferences are to keep things out of the way of the notation as much as possible, but it really is a personal preference thing. Now, one of the things we can try and do here is to copy the picking directions, because it's exactly the same that we're going to need for the next thing. So if we lasso and hold, and then hold down the shift, left click and hold again, we can use the alt and copy these. Now, one of the things you're going to find is they may not be lined up. Cubase will do a job of trying to line them up. If they're not in alignment, you may need to add some new ones to the bar. Okay. I'm just going to put these in a default position and move that. Okay. And if they want to stay on the top, then what I tend to do is move them down, bottom, and then they're going to want to stay. All right, put them in there for now. Okay, so there's lots of ways that you can put them in different positions. Default position wants to be at the top, when effectively I would prefer them to be at the bottom. So I'm going to flip the position and keep them on the bottom there for now. Okay. Obviously, if you find that your target paste is going, it may be that you can use the actual and put them along the bottom like that. There you go. Okay, and that may work out a little bit better. So it depends where you drag them. If you drag them and drop them to each stave, and as a guitarist, it's quite important that we keep put the position there. There you go. Okay, we got there in the end. As I say, one of the biggest bugbears for me with regarding Cubase is that sometimes the score editor isn't completely intuitive, but it won't let you do anything that's an illegal move, as it were, to coin a chess phrase. It won't let you do anything that's an illegal move in the laws of music notation. Okay, so we can then flip the page, and we can now have an overview of our score. We could of course zoom in a little bit easier and see. So I reckon 100% is quite good, but 120 can be good as well, and that can allow us to see our score. Now, obviously, moving everything down the page allows us to add a title, and we can do that with words, form symbols, user symbols, and other. We can insert text and lyrics, which is pretty easy to do. We literally just insert text, and you can do that like that. And if you right click, you can set the font and make it a little bit bigger. And we can put my song on guitar. Change the font even, and that where we. There are other things that were form symbols that we can put in, and the tempo indicator is pretty good. That will be based on the default Cubase thing, and put that in. That will do 2. That will do for each stave, and basically give us a little bit more scope. One of the things I also like to do is, once I've exported the score, I like to actually edit it a little bit further in Photoshop if I have a chance to. So the next thing, that's a rhythm, and so dynamics is important. Obviously, it's playing both of them at once there, but dynamics is important in the sound. It's not going to be completely realistic, but as I say, if you're going to be using it to produce scores, teach other people, then that's pretty good. One of the other things that you can do is if we create another one now, I'm going to show you how to do a single line and some more specific tablature melody. So let's pick something like a Led Zeppelin song, for instance. First of all, I'm going to do some housekeeping. I'm going to label this and color code so that it matches, so I know what I'm doing. Oh, that was a bit ropey there. And the next thing I'm going to be doing is adding in there. So okay, same, and let's just do a Led Zeppelin song. Let's just do something like the Immigrant Song. Okay, and I'm just going to put a little macro set up there that allows me to insert cycle markers, and so the next thing I want to look at in here is creating Immigrant Song, and we are going to just put in some dynamics so that it sounds a bit more musical for the tutorial. There you go. And let's have a listen to that. Okay, and hold down the Alt button, and Control and R will open our score, and we can see that because I've not selected the previous scores, they're still showing up. We want to leave them intact because that's how we have it laid out. But with this one, let's just zoom in and have a look and see what we've done here. Okay, so that's pretty self-explanatory there. We can use the control button and the plus and minus on PC. With the command in on Mac to skip through every beat or every 8th beat, depending on our quantize and our grid. The next thing we might want to add is maybe we want to do something like a guitar scale. Show someone a guitar scale, 3-note per string. For an example, a 3-note per string guitar scale. Why not do a chord box as well, showing the notes? So we'll do that now, and we'll make this green, and we'll just call this 3-note per string G major. And in here, I'm just going to draw up a G major scale here, and what we can do now is right click and go to Functions, Verse, and we'll have, if we want to keep the note, which we will in this tutorial, we'll keep it the same, and that will reverse it. That'll allow me to do it, reverse that like that. And I'm now, that's really our notation. Really, we should be calling that notation, traditional notation, and then guitar tab. There is another aspect you can add on the bottom, which is to just show the rhythmic notation, which is in Cubase 10, which I'll quickly show you in this example. For instance, if I lasso this and right click, I can select show rhythmic notation, and that will just show the rhythm without any notes. I could of course change that to the drum tab if that's all I wanted to do. Okay, so that's another important thing. Okay, so now we're going to hold down the Alt, left click, and duplicate down there. Now you'll notice that the actual parts are called piano. They're both called piano. Another quick thing you can do in Cubase is if you highlight the name and then hold the Shift button and Enter, then that will rename the entire part what that is. That's quite a handy feature if you're doing your housekeeping and you want to make sure that everything is neat and tidy. Okay, so I'm extend that lasso and turn on loop. Okay, so we are going to now look at Control and R, go into my G major scale, and one of the things I want to do first of all is move these notes because these are all in open position. So I want to move them so that it'll be the 3, 5, and the 7. So one of the things, first of all, we can highlight the note, right click, and move to string. Or we can move the note to previous string, next string down. Now this one's more important if you're doing bunches of notes that you know you want to be on the same. So for instance, GAB, I want these to be on the same. So I'll lasso and highlight these two, right click, and then move note to previous string. Okay, that one's going to stay the same, but I want to do the same for these. Right click, move note, previous string. And then this one, because this one's on the actual string I want it to be at, I don't need to bother with that. Oh, if you can let it slip, you can move the mouse up and do that, which I really don't recommend you play around with that. That can lead to all sorts of problems. And we want to put that on the string. Okay, so that's the process that I would use if I wanted to change. I want all these to be on the 5th string, so I'll say move to string 5, and the one I've highlighted will stay the same, and then the B and the A I want to be 6th, beg your pardon, like that. Okay, and maybe we want to add some note symbols, so alternate picking. So what I will do on this down up is on every beginning 8th beat, going to highlight, and I'm going to add my down pick. Okay, and I might flip the position so that they're on the bottom there or elsewhere, who knows. But for the moment I'll keep them there, and I'm just going to highlight all the other ones. That's a control button there. If you've highlighted something you don't need to, you can just hold the control and the rest stay highlighted. And I can do bow up. And then flip position. And there is our indications for picking. Obviously you can keep them up the top, move them however you see fit. If they stay green, when you print them out or when you think you can colour them, and I think they, let's say the same colour, so it's no real bill, no great shakes really. Okay, so another thing is you may find that the bar numbers are all concurrent, which means they 1, 2, 3, 4, and you may find that if you're doing multiple examples, for instance, I've reached the end of this. If I just left click here and that in, that makes things a little bit neater. And on this one, so when we highlight these and view them, you'll be able to see that there's the endings. Now if I'm showing that that's bar 1, 2, 3, and 4, and this is showing bar 5, and I want it to show bar 1, I can right click or double click and bar offset. So that will now show bar 1 as well as that showing bar 1. And I can do the same with bar offset on this. And now I may want to add in chord chart. So we go to other, and on here I'm going to increase the size to about 8, and I'm going to ask it to do horizontal. But I'm also going to add some frets. Go. And in there, we've got a little guitar chart shows. Now, obviously, what you could do for each one is first 3 notes, say for example, put that there. You'll find a way that will work best for you, and then just Alt and click and move that to the next. Like that. And the final one, double left click. Oh, it's a single left click, sorry, and then F sharp, so D, E sharp, E, F, F sharp, and then G. Yep. When we reach the actual, the end of the scale, we could just lasso and put them all in like that. Okay. Now you can move them so they're a lot closer or nearer, and adjust them, and using the size tool and the frets tool. I'm only just doing this roughly to show you, to give you a quick guide on how you can produce scores. Now we want to see the finished article. Let's fit page and move this up a little bit. And these two, we need to highlight these while we move our bar handle. They can sometimes get squashed in. And there's our immigrant song. As I say, you can insert text if you want to give it a label. And our final G major scale. And there you go. One finished score. Now it's far from ideal, but it'll get the job done, and it will allow you to create, as complex as you need to be. Allow you to create scores for your guitar students. Really a sort of a tutorial to show sort of guitarists who are teaching students who are new to Cubase and really want to get a handle on what they're doing. So the next thing is we want to export this score. Finally, we go to File, Export. We have to be in score mode here. If we try to export the score, nothing selected, it will be grayed out. We can also highlight and go to File, and it's not shown up again, you see. So we still need to actually make sure we are in the score editor. Move into the score editor and then export scores, and away we go. We can export that with the file. Okay, we can export that to bitmap. I usually reckon about 600 dpi, and we can export that in the window to our saved location wherever we want. Don't forget to save the project, and that really is a very quick tutorial on how I would create 3 very different rhythm, lead and scale, riff and scale parts in the Cubase score editor. Okay, thanks very much for watching, and take care of yourselves, stay safe. If you've got any questions, pop them into the comments box below, and I'll try and answer them as quickly as possible. Okay, thanks so much guys, and I hope you enjoyed it, and take care of yourselves.